Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I start directly in English. I think this is okay for those who participate. I'm very happy to welcome Ma Thida from Myanmar. She is our scholar at the moment in the Writers-in-Exile program. And she's a writer, also a human rights activist, and she is a she's a surgeon. So she studied medicine and worked also as a surgeon in Myanmar in a big clinic. She was already doing this work in Myanmar, a political activist and a writer. And what I very much like is that she had a pseudonym. She wrote under the name Suraganika, which means the brave traveler, die tapfere Reisende. And somehow this expression was prophetic. I think when you choose this, you didn't know how prophetic it will be, because she is very brave. I mean, she was already very brave at that time, but she's a traveler, and she's a constant traveler during all the years, even now. Sometimes we make a joke that she lives, I think I can say where you live at the moment. She lives in Berlin, and we make always a joke that she knows Berlin very well from above. Anyway, but you are very much on the ground because of your work, which is a very serious, a very important work, and you have also a very, let's say, a very heavy biography, because you spent more than 5 years in prison in Myanmar because you are a political activist, and you were saved by two things. Because you became very ill. One part of your getting out was you were constantly meditating. You said that somehow saved you. And then there was pressure from outside, from human rights organizations, from International PEN, from Amnesty International, from other. So that finally you got released, and then you could leave Myanmar. But this was already some years ago. It was before the the short democratic time in Myanmar, before the period of Aung San Suu Kyi. Yeah, so a warm welcome, Thida. Thank you. We are very happy to have you here. Thank you. My name is Astrid Vehstedt, and I'm the Writers-in-Exile officer from German PEN. Yeah, we would like to talk about Myanmar and about your book, which you wrote. We can put it to the camera. We decided, since we are on a book fair and it is also very noisy, that we would more talk about it than read, because reading can be done by people. And so I think we will go through the book, and also, which is also a mirror of the younger history of Myanmar. So I start with our vision from the West, because Myanmar is also a country where people like to travel. Sometimes without any knowledge about the country. So we know it as the country of the 1,000 pagodas. It's beautiful, we have a beautiful image, but the background is completely different. It is very cruel. We have a military government. It is not even a government, it is a dictatorship, I think. And so maybe we should start from your point of view. What is Myanmar for you?
Well, yeah, Myanmar is my heart indeed. I really cannot afford to give up my citizenship, because this is the land where I brought up myself. I I understand freedom, I understand literature, I understand freedom of expressions, not from outside indeed, because I learned there with our own experience. That's why I used to say the creativity and creative expression of my own is not because of the freedom we had. It's because of the freedom we are looking for, you know. Since we don't have any freedom, since we have a very heavy censorship was 5 decades. And at the same time, the propaganda was so long, another 5 decades, and the education was totally ineffective and not very great. But because of these three things, I feel our society is very much intellectually blind. So that I really don't want. And why I know this is the causes, this is the diagnosis, is through reading. So that's why my life and my passion about literature, it's very much related. So for me, my country, even though it's very, as you said, is really beautiful, and people are still relatively peaceful, even though we are now in the middle of the very fierce fighting and revolution, but the average people's mentality is very peaceful. Only because of this consecutive, violent, militant military, the state military, people finally decided to took arms. So I think the whole deconstructive part and the black part of my country's history is mainly because of this state's military. So apart from this, the whole country, because of the intellectual blindness, obviously we are not yet ready for mature democracy, but I can say people are very open to practice their freedom of expression, practice their human rights, but the problem is ever being the military. So the whole civilians part of the country has been treated as a second citizen, very much devalued by the military. That's the only problem. So for me, Myanmar is something like that. You know,
say that's the only problem. I mean, this is a huge problem. But so when you talk about 5 decades of propaganda and of non-education, so how somebody like you can emerge, you know, how it is possible? And I think there are also more writers and more intellectuals. So how do you have your education? How do you do your training?
Yeah, that's why I really appreciate literature. You know, the very good thing is we have a very long tradition of having the literary talks, especially during the winter seasons. There were no more monsoon, no more rain. So it's every winter season we do have a public free literary talks from the writers. So all the writers, they try their best, even though the censorship, we normally smuggle in some books and we just try to find. So you wouldn't believe, even in the socialist days from late 60s to 80s, there are some diplomats in Myanmar. So they can get full, books, and after they read it, they just throw away. And the writers try to collect these books to educate themselves, even though there is a very heavy censorship. So by doing this, most of the writers, they try their best to bypass the censorship. So I normally say our readership is very good at reading between the lines beyond the text. So our imaginative power is very strong. That's why I think the relationship between the writers and readers are very good at based on this imaginative power, not just our creative power. So for the literary talks, it is the field of the practice. We normally exchange ideas. So that's how I think I try to find some old books. They were becoming the PEN books, but I can still dig from some of my relatives and friends' private library. So books and literature saved me and it's educated me. You know, I spent 5 years, 6 months in prison, and I spent another 5 years to get my very first passport. So you could imagine by the time when I got the very first passport, I was about to have my 40th birthday, something like that. It was pretty late. But when I arrived to EU, I was staying at one of the MPs from EU in Brussels, and we talked about a lot of the other issue. And that lady was quite amazed. How comes you have very heavy censorship? You can communicate me in so many topics. How comes you know this? So this is, that's why I believe in literature. I believe in this writing. So, simply because of reading.
I think you have a very holistic approach on, I mean, as you said, you know Berlin very much from above. You also know a lot of subject, you have an overall view, and we had a lot of talks, provided you were in Berlin, about Myanmar, about the future, and I was very much impressed that you always depicted an image of the future, a peaceful one, and also this morning we talked about Myanmar is a federal country, so somehow you grab also the information from where you travel, and
and the good thing is, because of this kind of the tradition of the literary talks, from the very second military junta period, from 1988 to 2010, all the literary talks were banned. So there were no more tradition. But luckily, after the relaxation of the censorship in 2012, the tradition can be practiced again. So since then, I was invited to so many literary talks all over the country. So it's like during the monsoon season, we can still do this kind of literary talk in universities and some schools. So under the roof. But beyond the monsoon seasons, it can be in the open air everywhere. Every single village, they try to having this kind of thing. So by this invitation, I'm so lucky to know the country. And even before that, I was so lucky to have my parents. They love traveling. So I can travel, and my parents are not from the Yangon, the former capital city. They're from the other states, the far remote area. So we have some cousins living there. That's why I can vividly see how their life is harder than the central area. So that's why I can use my empathy, I can use my knowledge to reflect and to think about. So that's how I became.
We have a map at the beginning of the book about Myanmar. So I think not everyone knows where it is really situated. It's close to China,
between China and
India somewhere. It is quite large, and it has several provinces.
14 provinces, states and divisions, and our population is officially 55 millions, but we thought it's almost 60 millions. Up to 3 to 4 millions are now living in Thailand, something like that. So you can imagine.
And so your book is goes from 2011 to 23. So it covers a wide range of some sort of democratic development, and it ends with the coup of the military 2021 or 2021. 21. So it covers a season of hope, but if we read it, and I think we go through some parts of it without reading, but talking about it, some chapters, your main focus is on the brutal change of the military, the next wave of oppression, right?
Yeah, sure. This time, because of we had a very brief period of so-called democracy, So during these periods, people started learning about what are their rights, and they know how to protect its rights. So I used to say, our population, the society, is never being able to stand up and never being practiced or noticed about their role. But because of this very brief period, especially from 2015 to 2020 under Aung San Suu Kyi's NLD government, they started having chance to practice and learning this. For that reason, this time when the military made coup in 2021, they said, no, without our consent, nobody can govern us. This is the very, very strong message, and first time ever, they show to the world how much they know their role and they literally practice it. That's why the revolution is very strong and it's keep going on till now.
But why is this a military coup? Why did it happen? And I mean, who's behind? Because there must be some interest behind it. It's just not like that. Normally, it is more profitable to have a country in peace and more productive.
Well, this is the proper concept of the normal, ordinary persons like us. But for the military leaders, this is totally the opposite. They just build up their legitimacy based on their strength, their force. So their narrative is, in order to make the countries being protected from the foreign influence, or they ever say democracy is somehow imported issue, imported things. So they need to protect the country from the foreign influence. So for that reason, they never ever wanted to give up their power from the very beginning. So because of the very, it's also related to the global financial crisis after 2008, it was very much, we did have cyclone Nargis, very, very, at least 150,000 people died, so many problems. So because of this situation, and at the same time, because of the international pressure, they decided to did the 2010 general election, something like that. So even with that, they really didn't want to lose their power. So they made this 2008 constitution. That constitution is totally undemocratic. You could imagine for National Assembly and for the regional assemblies, altogether 14 regional parliaments, at least 25% seats should be reserved for the military assigned person, military officers. And 3 ministries, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Home Affairs, and Ministry of the Border Affairs should only be assigned by the Commander-in-Chief. So under Ministry of Home Affairs is police forces. So you could imagine the whole, the power, executive power, is not in the hands of the people. Yeah, and on top of that, the Chief Justice or the most supreme judiciary persons, according to the Constitution, he was assigned by the Commander-in-Chief, and he can serve that post until the age of 70. So in 2015, he was assigned when he was at 55. So he can serve as, for another 15 years. So he's the ex-military person. So you could imagine. And the Commander-in-Chief cannot be assigned by the civilian president. So it's the whole design is like that. Even with that, in 2020 general election, Aung San Suu Kyi and NLD won the majority of seats. So their concern is all the wrongdoing in the past, including the Rohingya crisis, that they deliberately did it to undermine the role of the Aung San Suu Kyi and NLD. So they're really being afraid of that might be the program for the longer run. So the Commander-in-Chief, he turned out to be 60, the age of pension, and he requested in 2000, at the time he's 2015. So he requested Aung San Suu Kyi and at the time the president to extend his term to postpone his age of pension, and they denied. And because he has all the power, he unilaterally declared, since there is no suitable persons to serve this post, I will continue to serve this post for another 5 years. So then his term will be finished by 2021. That's his concern. If he lost the power and position as a Commander-in-Chief, he will be in great danger. That's why he made the coup.
Yeah. No, we know this. We know this from other autocrats in the world. Exactly the same pattern.
Sure.
Now we would like to go to your book. So it's called A Maze, and a maze is also what we call an Irrgarten. Where you go in, you don't find the exit, or maybe you find the exit by miracle. But it is a maze.
So I deliberately put this because it's an amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. Amazing maze, something like that. In Burmese book, the title is Amazing Maze, something like that. I just try to put this like.
Unfortunately, it is very difficult to translate this in German. This is what this we have to make. We have to think about it how we'll do it. But let's go a little bit into the book. So. What is the structure of the book? You have several passages, you have also lyrical passages, you quote, you have historical things. So what was your idea about the construction of the book?
Yeah, thank you so much for this question. To be frank, I just want to talk a little bit about my earlier book. It's called The Roadmap. The Roadmap is Myanmar from 1988 till 2010. So in that book, the roadmap is I make the 7 chapters because the military always say we have a 7 steps roadmap to democracy, disciplined democracy. But it's still, so
level -1.
Yeah, that book is about Myanmar background information, but I chose 2 families to reflect the impact of the military coup. But after the 2021 coup, I started thinking about writing a new book after 2010. Then I think I should focus more on the current Spring Revolution after the coup. But before that, I was normally asked by the media personnel where the Myanmar is, and I normally said we were still at the fork in the road because the last chapter of my roadmap is fork in the road. I normally say we were at the fork in the road. So after 2021 coup, I said, okay, were we still at the fork in the road? And some people started saying, Myanmar is making a U-turn. Then my argument is, no. If we can say U-turn, we should reach from point A to point B and then back to point A. I thought we'd never been to point B. We were still at the point A in a maze.
Yeah.
That's why we cannot go farther. So my roadmap turned out to be a maze. And for that reason, to having the structure, this book, I just want to expand the scope, not just focus on the 2 families. So this book is pretty mixed. That's why some sessions is more like the literature style, the fiction stuff, but some are pure information, something like that. So it took me so much time to decide the style, the design of the book, even though I have so many information, the actual information is at least more than 10 times.
Yeah, I mean when you read it, you get the impression that you have certain sparks of the whole story, and somehow you have to keep it in your mind, and you somehow put it together in your mind, which makes you very active as a reader. But let us talk about maybe one passage which is called "The Prison of the Spring," which is very touching, because you talk about a child of 3 years old, which is the youngest, maybe the youngest political prisoner in the world. Yeah. This is a true story, right?
It is. It is a very true story. After the coup, most of the civil servants decided to do the civil disobedience movement. So they decided not to go to the office anymore. They just withdrew themselves from the administration, so and so. So the military was so angry about that. So their target is to do whatever they could to knock down all these CDMers, the civil disobedience movement people. Then the 3 years old girl, her father was one of the CDM's people, and they are looking for him. since they couldn't find him, and people, his family thought, oh, they will arrest only him. So you just escape and we will live in the servants' quarter. But they arrested all the family members. His mother, 64 years old, his wife, 39 years old, and his daughter, 3 years old.
So we have a German expression for this called Sippenhaft.
Yeah. So what we thought is they might release her, especially her. They might not put her on trial because this is like a blackmail. So he decided not to arrest by himself and not to be arrested by himself. Then he just keep running. Finally, after a couple of months, they put them on trial, and she has been charged for 3 years imprisonment.
So
3 years over.
Yeah. The grandpa, the mother, and the 3 years old.
Yeah.
But the remarkable thing is what you do is that you don't accuse the government, but you look at the other side of it. For instance, you describe this little girl, somehow is the sunshine of the prison. And this is the remarkable thing. You go with your mind beyond the cruel story.
Sure, I think the whole society, our Burmese people, because of our own experience, we normally find our own ways to keep us move forward, something like that. So this girl turned out to be the sunshine inside the prison. She tried to entertain to the people, and since she's so young, and even the prison guards dare not to hurt her, so that's why she's really pretty outspoken inside the prison, even though she cannot say any political things.
But she sings revolutionary songs, right?
Yeah.
However, you're a doctor, so you also you end this chapter with the comment that this certainly also does some harm to the psyche of the child regarding the longer future. Right? Yeah, and also there's a chapter about the medical service, a very dramatic one, who is intervening in the middle of the coup and the attacks of the military. Right? So you also give them a voice.
Sure, there are so many medical. Indeed, the one who started the CDM movement are the medical personnel. That's why the target has been pretty much harsh on all the medical personnel right now. And they are the key players right now in the armed revolution too. Without their help, the injured people and some, they cannot be saved. So they play so much important role. And the way they see is, I really like the response from one of the medical doctors. He has trying to save the people. So from the very beginning, we were having the very peaceful protest, but the military targeted, just aiming at heads of the protesters, So the medical personnel are very busy saving lives, even in the other people's their bedroom or living room, something like that. So after sometimes, nearly every day, they kill more than 100 people. The injured people is so many. So after 2-3 weeks, that medical doctor said, how many people can I save with my scalpels? It's the sergeants, we use the scalpels because they use the guns. So there is no way until and unless we took the arms and fighting against them. Otherwise, I cannot save as many people as I could, something like that. So that's, I can understand. To be frank, I still believe in the peaceful revolution, but it's very, very hard on the ground.
I had once a long discussion with somebody who was a researcher on Gandhi, and we were reflecting the question why Gandhi was possible for Gandhi to defeat the British in India. And would it have been possible to defeat the Nazis in Germany? And we came to the conclusion, no, because the British still had a little spark of humanity. It said, finally, we give way. So somehow, and we talked about this morning, we have the impression that in our time it goes in very extreme directions, the development. and that you have people who are don't listen anymore, where you have the impression they are just like machines, and they don't want to have any human actions or whatever movements or empathy. Is this? I mean, this is something which you experience, I guess, in Myanmar.
Yeah. No, in Myanmar, it's really mixed. Yeah, to be frank, for elder generation like myself, we prefer to human communication. We prefer using the empathy, but by the time when the IT technology making people literally living in the virtual world. I think one of the Japanese term I vividly remember is a hikikomori. It's a kind of the social withdrawal syndrome. Is affecting the younger generation, and then they really don't know how to use their empathy. That the freedom of empathy has been gone, so they're becoming like a robotic the creatures, so they just try to react. So I think the current problems of the AI and some other thing is making people just to react, never being proactively act something, so just people choose not to choose anything, so becoming more and more robotic creatures, not the actual human being. So that's a very difficult time. And on top of that, I think because of some kind of the very violent games and apps, making them, okay, we need to fight first, we need to kill someone first, otherwise we will be killed. So that kind of mentality making us the whole world in more violent.
Yeah, therefore you create in the end you create a vicious circle, because you don't know where it ends. And as you said in the beginning, that people in Myanmar, they are very peaceful, and in the end they have to decide to take up arms because there's no other choice. And basically it's a complete defeat of humanity. But the other way around would say, our Jewish population in Germany going to the concentration camps without any resistance. But I think you cannot expect this from people just to march into the bullets. So, and somebody once said to me, you cannot go against tanks just with candles in your hand. I don't know, but maybe you can.
Well, in that sense, I normally say I'm really proud of my own people, because we keep this revolution from 2021 until now. Every single day we have a revolution. Compared to the other revolution, to be frank, in Hong Kong, in Belarus, some other, they cannot hold the revolution that much, but we do. We keep doing it, because I think the Burmese are more like the elder generation who believe in humanity and in-person communication are still the hub of the revolution, even though the real fighters are the younger generation.
Yeah, you also described this chapter we were talking about, this man who was not obedient anymore. So if more and more people just withdraw and don't collaborate, so the regime will drain. Maybe, I don't know.
But that's also very potential.
Yeah.
That's why I keep writing. Through my social media, I keep reminding people, raising so many questions on the empathy and the revolution, but at the same time, I keep reminding them, the decent way of fighting against is much needed, rather than just the pompidou responses. Yeah.
I guess we have somehow reached the end of our conversation, but I would like to end with something positive perspective. So are you hopeful that let's say in the near future there will be a positive change?
Well, right now the military junta declared they're going to have a first part of the election in December 28th, and they said the campaign period will start at 28th of October. But according to the new registration law for the political parties and the electoral law, it sounds like they already being undermined and abolish all potential democratic groups. as becoming the political party. So what can we expect even beyond this election? So I really hope if the international community make more sense about against this election, we can be okay. Otherwise, giving legitimacy to this election can make us entire situation more harder.
So, do you know about the implication of the West, of Western companies, for instance, economic implications in Myanmar? Is there anything, or is this
not much? Not because of the political stance out, nor our pressure that the revolution groups requested and giving pressure, but simply because of the mismanagement from the military junta. They prefer just to be bribed, just to be to do the corruption and just to implement all things just for their benefit. That's why a lot of the international business and media already being withdrew already. Yeah.
So just to close, this little girl now, is she now free or is she still in prison? I mean, you wrote this.
I have no idea. There is no source yet. She's already being freed because she was sentenced in 2023. So 3 years in prison, probably.
1 year left.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Thida, for being with us. Thank you so much for sharing this very, very important information with us. I think we learned a lot again. We always learn a lot from you and also from other writers which we have in our program, because you can tell us directly what is happening in your country. We don't need to go via other media. And I would like to recommend this book. It is in English, so hopefully one day we can also have a German translation. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the Writers in Exile program and the PEN Germany. I've been joining this program and this scholarship for almost 3 years, and I enjoy thoroughly, and I really, really appreciate the way I got the full support from PEN Writer in Exile program of PEN Germany. Thank you so much.